If you're a cinematographer or filmmaker on a film, you are also the lead gear guy. It is often your job to choose the camera system, lenses, and accessories to achieve the look that you and your director have decided on. That results in a large collection of decisions that you need to make while all the time staying with the budget of the production. Everything from camera to B-cam to lenses, monitors, battery systems, transmitters, director's monitor, lights, tripod, gimbals, drones, and everything else you can think of. If you're a 1 or 2 person team, this can be pretty straightforward. Grab a solid cinema camera and a zoom lens, a couple of mics, and get to work. But as you level up in your career, whether that is in narrative, documentary, or commercial work, you will need to make more and more decisions and provide more services for more people. And the gear you choose could have a huge impact on your ability to do your job and do your job well. So any system that helps streamline this process, I am very interested in. I am currently DPing 2 feature documentaries with 2 very different camera packages. The first is using an Arri Alexa Mini with Cooke Anamorphics, and it is a big, heavy beast. It results in some great, solid handheld footage, which is the look we wanted for this very personal and intimate film, only at the expense of my back. The other film I'm working on required a smoother, more commercial looking style, and therefore I opted for one of the newest and most innovative camera systems that have been released in the last few years. And that's that beauty right over there, the DJI Ronin 4D. The Ronin 4D has had a nice little moment this year because A24's biggest film ever, Civil War, used the Ronin 4D for a lot of the production. But you're also seeing a lot of people adopting the Ronin 4D because it is the only camera that is truly capable of doing what it does. Ultra smooth footage that feels more like an uber expensive Arri Trinity or Steadicam setup than a $7,000 camera. And with the release of the 8K version of the 4D, DJI has also taken its image quality to new heights, with the 8K head having a much nicer image than the 6K in my opinion. It's truly a beautiful image that rivals any other cinema camera I've used, from the Alexa Mini to the C300 to the Brano or the FX6. But image quality isn't what I want to talk about today. For me, the beauty of the Ronin 4D is how well designed it is from a user interface perspective and how it streamlines so many of the things we are asked to do as cinematographers. And most importantly, the 4D allows me to eliminate quite a few different pieces of gear from my workflow, making me more streamlined and even better, saving me quite a bit of money. So today, that's what we're going to talk about. All the things I'm able to sell or not even buy at all when I am on a project that is using the Ronin 4D. If you're new here, my name is Curren Sheldon, and I am an ASC-Award winning cinematographer and an Oscar-nominated and 2-time Emmy-winning filmmaker. I started this channel to relay some of the things I have learned in my past 12 years as a self-taught filmmaker, working on feature documentaries, commercial work, and everything in between. I appreciate you watching, and let's get back to the beauty that is the DJI Ronin 4D and why I chose it as my A camera for a feature film I am DPing. So it's no secret as a cinematographer or as a filmmaker that you tend to start accumulating gear as you get further in your career. And while I do love gear and researching gear, I also like to have a streamlined workflow. I like to use stuff that doesn't get in the way of actually doing my job. The documentary King Cole, which I was the DP on, that won ASC-Award, we used a Canon C70 with a couple lenses, and that's pretty much it. It was shot 95% on a tripod or handheld, and it was a very simple setup, but it got the results that we wanted. But often I see on big jobs, you're just throwing gear at problems and you just have more and more stuff. But I like to keep things simple, minimal, and streamlined, and that is why I chose the 4D. So we're gonna go through all the different things that this camera does that makes my life simpler and saves me money because I can now sell or not buy quite a few different things. So obviously the main selling point for the Ronin 4D is the fact that it has a gimbal built in. So the first thing that I can sell or not take on shoots or just not buy when I need to upgrade is a gimbal. Now, if you wanted a cinema camera that has the image quality, full frame, and everything else that the Ronin 4D offers you and puts it on a gimbal, you're probably looking at something like a C500, a Alexa Mini LF, perhaps an FX6 or FX9, and therefore you're gonna put that on a Ronin 2 or a Movi Pro, which is a very large gimbal, right? So your package becomes very, very big to get the same results as this gimbal has built in. So if all this camera had was a gimbal built into the front of a cinema camera, it would be pretty incredible. But it also has these sensors on the bottom of the camera, which then allows you to activate a 4th axis, which then takes out all the bounce out of your steps, which is one of the big issues with using gimbals. And kind of no matter how you use gimbals, you almost always have those little bounces. This camera stabilizes your footage for you. I have said on other videos that external monitors are often overrated because the monitor that's on the camera is usually okay, decent enough. But I have found myself using external monitors more and more. As you do more and more critical jobs, you want to make sure that you're actually hitting critical focus and that you really want to be able to see what you're shooting. And so having a 5-inch or 7-inch bright monitor on your camera has almost become a necessity. Now, if you're using the Ronin 4D, you can actually not use an external monitor because the one that comes with the camera is a beautifully bright 5-inch monitor that is perfectly usable in 99% of situations. It is bright, pretty, and frankly, has all the menu options you need. And after using this in bright sunlight in Florida for a few days, I can now say that this monitor is plenty bright, it's plenty sharp. The other beautiful thing about this monitor that a lot of external monitors don't allow is that you can access all of your menu items and all of the different settings that you might need to change at any given moment. And so I would much rather use something like this over any other bigger, brighter external monitor because this is plenty good enough and it allows you to access all of your menus. So second thing I'm selling, my external monitor. So one thing I have been asked to do a lot more as I've begun DPing more feature films is to provide a director's monitor that goes with my camera package. I have used the Hollyland Mars M1 Enhanced and their Pyro system, both of which I love. I have often rented a Small HD in Teradek, which is a very expensive version, but is a very streamlined and readily available monitor system. But I no longer have to use any of those because DJI has an incredible transmission and director's monitor setup. So on the back of the Ronin 4D, kind of like Red used to do with their DSM-C2 lineup, is they have modules that you can attach to the back of the camera. And you can stack pretty much as many modules as you want. And so I have 2 modules on here right now. One is right here with the antennas coming out, and that is a transmission. So this is a transmitter going to a director's and external monitor. And so the beauty of this system is that I no longer have to attach a transmitter onto the actual camera itself, power it with a different battery or power it with V-mounts or D-tap, have another cable going to the transmitter and just making my rig a little bit messier. Instead, it's already attached to the camera. I don't even have to think about it. The battery that powers the camera, that powers the monitor, also powers the transmission, and it goes right directly to this big, beautiful director's monitor that you get handles for it, strap, and that's it. It's all built in. The director's monitor is really useful if you wanted to actually control the camera with the director's monitor. You can take these handles off, like so. Now your director's monitor actually becomes a way to control the camera. As you can see, I'm moving around my gimbal head just by controlling it with my joystick on the monitor itself. And so I've seen a lot of people obviously use these for car mounts, but also if you have someone who is running with the camera, but you can control the camera, you can control the focus by using this wheel right here, and everything is incredibly integrated. And so now, while I love my Hollyland Pyro system, I'll probably go ahead and sell those because this is such a nice setup. It's so easily streamlined and it keeps my rig really clean, which is important to me. If you're shooting a project that's on a gimbal, then there's a lot of different things you need to add to that rig in order to get it to work correctly. Obviously, we've talked about monitors, we've talked about transmitters, director's monitor, but the other big one is follow focus. And when you're adding a follow focus to something like a DJI RS2 or even a Ronin 2, you're gonna have to have 2 more things to power, probably 3 or 4 more different cables and cords to connect the different aspects of it. But here on the Ronin 4D, everything, again, is built in and it is really seamless and easy to use. And so with the LiDAR system that's on top here, you not only get autofocus for lenses that actually have electronic contacts, but you can also get autofocus for manual focus lenses. But more importantly than that for me is just how enjoyable and easy it is to use the follow focus system on this camera system. And so this little wheel right here is your focus, and it's just so natural when you're holding a camera with 2 hands, it's steady, to be able to pull focus on any lens with this little focus wheel. And if you have it in autofocus mode, you just don't touch that and it kind of spins itself. Or you can have it where the autofocus does what it does, and if you want to stop and take control, you just grab the wheel and start focusing yourself, which is really cool because often on any good autofocus camera, it eventually does fail you, and in certain situations it will fail you. But being able to just grab the wheel, take control, and be able to focus on what you want to focus on is really, really incredible. I have a couple different follow focus systems depending on what I'm doing. So I actually really like the PD movie system because it is so small, it has internal batteries, and so you don't need to run cables. But when you have something like the Ronin 4D that has a really nice built-in follow focus system, then I don't really see any reason to keep those around. So I'll probably offload those pretty soon, especially if I use the Ronin 4D for more and more of my work. All right, next up is the battery system that the Ronin 4D uses. These are the TB50, which are also used in the Inspire 3. And the batteries themselves are really nice, pretty slim for 98 watt batteries. They last about 2 hours, depending on how many modules you have. So you do need quite a few. But the nice thing about the battery system is you just don't need any other batteries because the transmitter is built in, the external monitor, the gimbal, the follow focus, all of that runs off of one of these. So if you think, oh man, you're only getting 90 minutes or 2 hours on a battery, it's like, yeah, but you only have one battery instead of 4 or 5 or 6, right? So that alone streamlines your life and simplifies things so nicely that you don't have to have a bunch of V-mounts and Sony MPFs and little USB chargers. Is you can just have these batteries and it powers the entire system. The other really helpful thing that DJI has streamlined is charging. Now, if you're using something like a Canon C300, it comes with a single bay charger, but that camera eats through those Canon batteries. And so you might need to charge 3 or 4 batteries at the end of the day, but only have one charger. I have done quite a few shoots where I'm actually setting an alarm clock at 2 a.m. to get up and change batteries. But finally, a camera company gave us a really great solution to charging multiple batteries. And that's this 4-bay charger from DJI that allows you to connect 4 batteries to a single charger. You only have to plug into the wall one time and charge 4 batteries at once. And that is a pretty incredible little system. And so not having a bunch of different chargers or trying to get some USB-C batteries that are third party for a Canon C300 or C70, and instead have just one charger that charges and powers everything on your camera rig is so nice. So those are the big ticket items that I can sell or not even buy when using the Ronin 4D, whether it's a gimbal, a follow focus, a transmitter, a director's monitor. There's a lot that you can just offload because the 4D does it all for you. And there's a few small things I just want to run through as well that also really simplify your life. The first is this beautiful SSD. It's 1 terabyte. It just connects via USB-C, as all media should nowadays. And so you no longer have to keep track of your card readers. Instead, you just always have these on you and a USB-C cable, and you're good to go for offloading media. And it is fast. It only takes about 15 to 20 minutes to offload a terabyte of footage onto an external SSD. Another great innovation is that this camera has 4 different lens mount options. So if you buy into a Sony FX6 or Canon C70, then you either have to use adapters to EF or PL, or you're stuck in the RF or E mount world, or L mount, depending on what camera you're using. But this camera, the actual mount itself is interchangeable. So you can use E mount lenses, you can use L mount lenses, you can use Leica M mount lenses, or you can use DJI's own DL mount lenses. On top of that, obviously with those mirrorless lenses, you can also easily adapt PL and EF mount lenses. And so you have 6, maybe more different lens mount options for this one single camera. So you're not totally locked into one single lens mount system. And that has been very useful because I have used the DL mount, I have used the E mount, and I've also used the L mount. And so they're all incredibly useful depending on which lenses you want to use. You can just change the mount out and not worry about buying a whole new set of lenses. The camera is just incredibly thought out in terms of usability and user interface. Outside of these small cords that connect to the LiDAR and the monitor, everything else is just built right into the system. So you have 5 or 6 less cables and cords hanging off your camera than I do when I'm using my Alexa Mini and running a monitor and a transmitter and powering all those devices. So this is just a way cleaner and more streamlined and more usable system. And that is actually really, really nice to have. So there you go, everything that I can sell, offload, or just not even buy when I'm using the Ronin 4D on a project. Not only is it incredibly usable and allows me to have that more streamlined workflow and a lot less gear, the image quality is also incredible. It's the nicest image quality from anything I've ever used. The 8K sensor is incredibly detailed, but also has that sort of soft cinematic look that I'm always looking for when I'm using new cameras. So what do you think? Have you tried out the Ronin 4D? Have you tried out the 6K or 8K version? Let me know in the comments below, and if you could use something like this in your own work. All right, we'll see you in the next video.